Hello and welcome to today's episode of WorldAnvil.com. Today we're looking at the template of rank and title. And as it says here, King of Endor, first citizen of the Federation, Admiral of the Okabu Federation Fleet, Archmagi of the Lobotus, etc. What is the rank and title within your world? Now, again, this is a template that you might look at going, I don't think it's particularly relevant to me. But it is something that can be particularly powerful in terms of creating a long-lasting and memorable position that your players are going to have to fight through. It can also be useful in terms of organizing just how one gets into that position, and of course succession rights, which oftentimes can form the basis of a fantastic mystery. So when we go through the template very quickly, we've got things like alternative names, we've got a title, and from the drop-down menu of the different types, you've got familial types, civics, nobility, religious, scientific, all sorts of wonderful titles. Of course, self-proclaimed as well is one of my particular favorites. So you're prompted here for really all sorts of things. Who do they report to? What does it equate to? What are the equivalent sort of things? Again, these can often be very, very useful in creating characters who have an internal dynamic which only happens because of rank and title. Now, often cases in our own worlds, we are forced to deal with individuals who have got a rank that's just high enough to give them enough power to cause us to have grief in our lives. And they will have colleagues who have just enough power over them to cause them to have grief in their lives. And so the cycle continues all the way to the top. This is something that you can really, really draw from. So something that I like to do when looking at a template like this, for example, is I like to take a piece of paper and draw out an organogram, starting from the top. Who is the head honcho? What is their title? Are they the Grand Fig? I needed titles for my druids, so I decided to call the most senior druid the Oakkin, as in he is the oak and he's the kin of the oak. The druids are kin of the groups. So we had oakkin, birchkin, willowkin, fernkin, ashkin, poplarkin. I don't think we had a poplarkin actually, but I worked out all of the different ranks, all of the different positionings, and then you can see who reports to who. So then you can fill in this information very, very easily. Now, something that I did like is that there's some responsibilities that are outlined here. There is the appointment. How do you get appointed here? And again, this is also something that's particularly valuable when you are dealing with players who are interacting with your RPG world. If they can see that they could one day perhaps attain that rank, they can see what steps they need to take to get there. It's not this mysterious thing. Also, if you've got this information on hand, it's a lot easier for you to be able to incentivize them to try and get there. Now, another thing that is quite useful, quite interesting, I think, is this removal or dismissal. How does one get rid of them? Now, often cases it's a beheading, which I think is a pretty good way of getting rid of the most evil of viziers, but for general workers I think it's a bit extreme when you want to fire your secretary that you cut a head off. So the idea here is, again, it's to spark plots and imagination within your creation. How do you get rid of the military general? What do you have to do to take out the president? How do you get rid of that king? Those are kinds of questions that are very, very interesting and that can lead to all kinds of rather more interesting discussions that the characters in your book or the players in your game are going to have to go through and go along. So this one template gives you so much in terms of being able to spawn different stuff. Now, of course, you've got the vignette, you've got the prose. So you're going to want to start this template with the highest rank and then work your way down from there as you create more and more ranks. There's wonderful things like historical details. Where did it come from? Why was it created? What's the cultural significance? If you look at, for example, the Queen of England today, Queen Elizabeth II, she is still the reigning monarch of Australia, even though Australia is, well, its own country. They voted unanimously by popular vote that she remain the monarch of Australia. Now, that is purely a culturally significant title. She could probably ask the Prime Minister of Australia to go to war, but he would probably have to run it through a whole bunch of people first and would take it under advisement. As a matter of fact, I don't think the Queen is empowered to actually declare war anymore. I think she's required for war to be declared, I don't think she's actually important anymore. Anyway, if I had a template for how the monarchy of England currently integrates with society, I would know it better. And that's why I need World Anvil just as much as you do. Past holders, this lovely little entry down here, is people who have obviously held the title before. Again, initially you might look at this template going, oh, I don't really need to answer those kinds of questions. But in terms of filling in the blanks, it gives you this wonderful resource for creating more adventures. What if the past holder of the title of Sheriff had, in actual fact, died? The Sheriff of Nottingham from Robin Hood. Who did he succeed? Who taught the Sheriff of Nottingham how to be the Sheriff of Nottingham? And who took over after the Sheriff left? The Sheriff, of course, would have left with taxes being very high, the population being very, very disenfranchised towards the local constabulary, and leaving the Sheriff basically holding a giant bag full of steaming offal, because the population was galvanized against him, wasn't he? So that would have been an interesting story to try and figure out. Now imagine if your characters came across this sheriff who looks at them as if he's been hit by a 10-ton truck and says, I have title, but no one listens to me. I'm just the sheriff around these parts. I can't really galvanize the people to do anything. They hate me. Well, they don't hate me, they hate my title. The previous bloke was a right regular bastard. And so now they don't listen to the sheriff anymore. Anyway, what can I do for you? That's a whole bunch of information that's come out of just this one template. So, rank and title, a wonderful resource for you to inspire your stories with just that much more personality than they had before. Until next time, light up the forge.